thanks first off for everybody being here tonight. We'll go ahead and just get started right away with AMB CEO Steve Kim.
So everybody, welcome again to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We're thrilled that you're here. We're thrilled with the news that we get to announce today. Before I get started, I want to do a couple of shout-outs. I think Coach Collins is here somewhere. Welcome, Coach. We're thrilled about this new partnership, and congratulations on a great recruiting season, and we look forward to that inaugural kick at Bobby Dodd. So Tim Zalowski, I think Tim's here. He's our Chief Revenue Officer. Just want to say thank you to Tim. He helped get this deal done and get it over the finish line. So Tim, much appreciated. So in the first 19 months of Mercedes-Benz Stadium, we've been very, very busy. In fact, we're one of the busiest stadiums in the world. We are thrilled that Super Bowl 53 is now in the rearview mirror. A really, really great event for the city and a really great event for Arthur Blank and for the stadium. But since that 19 months, it's not just been a Super Bowl, it's been a college football championship, it's been an MLS All-Star game, it's been an MLS championship, and we've entertained more than 4.7 million fans and guests across 85 plus ticketed events. So we're busy, but we're about to get even busier. The reason for our gathering today is that starting next year, we're going to begin hosting a marquee Georgia Tech football game, one per year for the next 5 years. We're thrilled that we're going to be building on a partnership that started more than 19 months ago. In fact, Georgia Tech in many ways came to the rescue as we were finishing out Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It was not yet ready for kickoff of our Atlanta United, and we got to host at Bobby Dodd our first 9 Atlanta United soccer matches. From that, we started a trajectory that now has Atlanta the most vibrant soccer culture in all of North America. So we're thrilled that we get to build on that amazing relationship and to talk a little bit more about this series of Mercedes-Benz Stadium events with Georgia Tech. Todd, it's all yours.
Sure. Appreciate it, and I'd also like to thank Mark Roundtree on our team for helping pull this together. Tim Zalowski, Rich McKay, Steve, Gary. There are a lot of people that help make this happen, and obviously turning what started off as looking at moving a marquee game to a 5-game series, which will start in 2020 against Notre Dame. And that'll be November 14th. When we first started contemplating doing something like this, we really looked at really why would we want to do this, and it really came down to a number of things. One is since I became athletic director at Georgia Tech, one of the number one messages that I wanted to make about our brand is the fact that we're in Atlanta. And I don't think that there's a better way to make a statement of our location and being really the epicenter of college football than playing a marquee game in Mercedes-Benz. It obviously provides a great experience for our fans. We played in the Chick-fil-A game against Tennessee, which was an incredible experience, and one that we felt, given the opportunity, we'd like to be able to do that on a more regular basis. And so obviously bringing our fans to Mercedes-Benz on a yearly basis was something that we were interested in doing. Recruiting. I can't think of a high school player out there that, given the opportunity to play in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, is not going to be incredibly intrigued by that. And I know Coach Collins, obviously with his attire today, is also making a statement that the fact that we are in Atlanta, we see our location as being one of our an asset that cannot be duplicated by our competition. And so recruiting is obviously playing a role in this. National exposure, using the platform of Mercedes-Benz Stadium to increase the Georgia Tech mark nationally is something that we're incredibly interested in doing. And then, as Steve said, this partnership that started with the United between Georgia Tech and AMB is something that we really felt could be enhanced by a regular game here, as well as potentially other opportunities down the road. And then, of course, revenue. The opportunity to play in Mercedes-Benz definitely creates the ability for us to increase revenue for those games. So with that, it's a 5-game series, and I'll turn it over to Gary to talk a little bit about the 2022 game.
Great, thanks, Todd. Happy to be here. Yeah, I'm here to announce that 2022 Chick-fil-A kickoff game will be Clemson versus Georgia Tech to open the season in an unopposed TV time slot on ESPN on Monday night. So if you know your TV ratings, it's a huge exposure game. And so we're happy to partner with Georgia Tech again. I'd like to compliment Steve and Todd for very few times in life and in business you get the chance to create a win-win-win. And this is that case scenario. So Mark Roundtree and Tim Zalowski did a great job in putting this deal together with us. So I'd like to thank them as well. And really want to welcome Coach Collins. He's done a tremendous job representing the Georgia Tech brand in a short time. And we all look forward to watching his team play and certainly in hosting them in 2022 against Clemson. This is unique for us because it'll be the first time that we'll be able to host 2 teams from the same conference. So this will be an ACC game, which is unique for the Chick-fil-A kickoff format. The other thing is this will be our 11th kickoff game in Mercedes-Benz in 2022 and our 16th game overall. We're probably rent this facility more than anybody other than the Falcons and United. So we're really excited to continue the great games in the capital of college football, Atlanta, Georgia. So with that, just want to, again, thank Todd. His foresight in getting out in front and trying to create something unique for the Georgia Tech brand in Atlanta and in college football was the impetus behind all this. So thank you.
Okay. Well, the full series, so everybody knows all the dates and opponents. November 14th, 2020 versus Notre Dame. 2021 date and opponent to be announced. 2022, like Gary just said, September 5th, that's Labor Day versus Clemson. Date and opponent to be announced in 2023. And then October 19th, 2024 versus Notre Dame. So those are the 5 games that'll be played here. 2021 and 2023, those dates and opponents will not be announced until the ACC finalizes its schedules. So that'll likely be January of 2021 and January of 2023. Those games will not be the Georgia game. The Georgia game will be played at Bobby Dodd Stadium. So we'll go ahead and open it up for questions for Steve and Todd and Gary. We ask that you please raise your hand and get a microphone for those questions. Thank you.
Could you take us from the beginning how all this, the genesis of how all this came together?
Sure. As we looked at our schedule and saw that Notre Dame would be coming to town in 2020, that's really what started us thinking about the possibility of moving that game specifically to Mercedes-Benz. And I guess as we started talking with Tim and Rich McKay and Steve, we started to look at, well, rather than this being a one-off, how could we potentially make this into some type of a series? And that's kind of how it got initiated. And then we all started to do our due diligence on whether it was possible or not, and that's kind of how it evolved to get us to this place.
Right. And from our standpoint, college football is right in our sweet spot. Our ability to really make a a tailored experience for different fan bases because of our video boards and the infrastructure that we have at Mercedes-Benz, which is really unique. So we can create a great environment that'll feel really tailor-made for Georgia Tech is one thing, and our ability to turn our building. So look, this was probably wouldn't have happened had we not had such a great experience with each other at Bobby Dodd. That sort of opened a doorway, and then building on that, us being neighbors, this really was a win-win as we dug into the conversation.
More questions?
In terms of, I guess, kind of the financial aspect. Oh, sorry. In terms of the financial aspect of this, how much of a windfall is this for Georgia Tech, and how much of that was a driver, Todd, to make the decision to get away from playing games in BDS and playing some games over here?
Well, it obviously played a role because if there wasn't significant upside, then you really have to balance out all the other aspects of why we would want to do this. So we ran through a number of pro formas and trying to be conservative. While I don't want to get to a specific dollar figure, it was definitely significant enough for us to continue down the path and explore whether this was possible or not.
Rod, go ahead.
Two of the questions that the fans are already asking: number one, seating, and how will that compare to where they're seating at Bobby Dodd, and number two, tailgating.
Well, on the seating part, since these will be our home games, there will be a lot more flexibility than we had in the Tennessee game. And so we'll actually have access to a lot more seats and be able to accommodate our fans at the levels that they are currently in at Bobby Dodd. So seating is not going to be a problem. As far as the tailgating piece, I'm not totally familiar with how all that works here, but I would expect that they'll end up having a great experience because I know that the Falcons fans have a pretty good time when they play here.
Right. So I'll touch on the tailgating piece. We have the Home Depot backyard. We activated that for the first time this past year. It's 11 acres of prime downtown space connected directly by entry doors and by escalator with the backdrop of downtown Atlanta and the backdrop of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So we've got the best tailgating spot in town that we will use for Georgia Tech home tailgaters for those games.
Todd, I'm curious, the games that have not been determined yet, is that kind of an ESPN, ACC, Georgia Tech decision, or how will those games be selected?
It's really just to see what our ACC home schedule actually looks like in those years, so that we can match up dates and those types of things. So that's really what it comes down to, is wanting to see what our home schedule is and who's on it.
So those will be ACC games that are played here?
Yes.
Todd, was there any concern? You talked about the other factors that the revenue outweighed. Was one of those the potential that, say, for Clemson, it gives more ticket opportunity for those fans from Clemson to come buy tickets and maybe negate home field advantage, maybe make it more of a 50-50 presence in the stands for those kind of games?
I mean, we definitely, Bobby Dodd Stadium is an incredible venue. And so any time that you're going to move a game from Bobby Dodd, you really do want to do your due diligence and kind of think through the whole process. So, but we felt, one, we could protect our home schedule because Bobby Dodd will still have a great lineup, even though that we're playing one of our games down here. In most of these years, we've already secured 6 home games in addition to this one. So we'll still have a 6-game home schedule, and in those that we haven't already secured 6 home games. We're working towards that, so hopefully we'll be able to do that. And so we did think about, by taking a game out of Bobby Dodd, how do we, one, provide our fans with a great experience here at Mercedes-Benz, as well as protect our home schedule. And I feel like we've got a pretty good balance in how we're doing that.
Todd, Mike had mentioned that none of the Georgia games will be played here. I'm curious, what was the thinking, or how did you arrive at that decision?
Because the Georgia Tech Georgia series is, I mean, that is a historical game that I believe should be played at home and home, and so bottom line, that's the reason.
Hearing some inklings of this early on, did Coach Collins kind of push to maybe make it a bigger deal in terms of like a length of deal, or was that something that you had in mind all along, Todd?
We had been working on this, but if you have learned anything from Coach Collins, he's like putting gasoline on a brush fire. So we basically, when he got on board and we talked to him about what we were planning on doing, it probably just made us even more excited and accelerated the process because, as you all notice, he runs at 150 miles an hour at all times.
Any more questions?
In terms of, I guess, ticket sales overall and that kind of thing, how's Georgia Tech comparing now to in terms of tracking going into next season? And do you feel like this is something that may kind of spur some more momentum that way?
Yeah, we our first now I guess it's 4 weeks, but our first 4 weeks of in our season ticket sale process is multiple times ahead of where we've ever been. And I think a lot of that is the excitement around Coach Collins. I think some of it is just us shrinking the season ticket sale window so that we could then have more time to focus on the sidewalk fans and single ticket holder that we're trying to move to season tickets. But there's definitely a lot of excitement already. And I think announcing this series and knowing that next year, what you do this year could affect your ability to get a Notre Dame ticket next year, obviously could play a role in further excitement and increased season ticket sales.
Two-part for Gary and Todd. Gary, just first for you, what does it mean for you guys to be able to continue that cross-sectional, being able to get a good regional matchup for that game with Clemson? And then also for you, Todd, just being able to bring in a fan base and a program like Notre Dame for games like this?
Let me go first. Yeah, obviously with Clemson, I think there's 2 programs that have right now separated themselves, and that's Clemson and Alabama. We have Alabama coming to play in Atlanta in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game, and now to have Clemson coming back, that's huge. We like to think of ourselves as the capital of college football because we have a program like Georgia Tech, because we have the best stadium in the world, and to bring in great programs, we want to continue to do that in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. And to play an ACC game on Monday night where the TV ratings are huge on that unopposed TV slot, it's great for Georgia Tech. Again, compliments to Mark Roundtree and Todd and Coach Collins. I think Georgia Tech's done a great job since Todd has come here and Coach Collins of really breaking through the clutter. And this is another example of that. Out-of-the-box thinking in a marketplace that's tough. This is a really good sports marketplace, and Georgia Tech's doing a great job of building a brand. And this game will certainly help with Georgia Tech playing Clemson in an ACC game to start the season in 2022.
And I would say Obviously, Notre Dame has a national following, and quite frankly, that's the reason they'd move a lot of their games to large stadiums around the country. Georgia Tech and Notre Dame have an interesting history going back to when Georgia Tech was an independent. So I think just that history, the nature of Atlanta, and just the pure football fan base here definitely played a role in us looking at how do we make this as big as we can, knowing that you've got an opponent like Notre Dame coming to town once every few years.
Any more questions?
Steve, I'm curious, to have 5 solidified dates over the next 5 years, or 20 through 24, what does that mean for the building and for you guys to have that sort of inventory that you know you can count on?
We're built for, Mercedes-Benz Stadium is built for hosting the biggest events in the world, and hosting such marquee names here for the next 5 years is great for Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's great for our operation. It's great for the city. And, we look at this stadium, as a factory, and we want to run this factory all the time. So we want 365 days of operation, and any great marquee matchup that we can get, especially football. That's our sweet spot. We're really good at executing football at the highest level. We're thrilled about that.
Tim, you better get to work. 365 days.
Todd, in terms of the AI 2020 and you're doing renovations on the edge and all that stuff, is there anything that will impact Bobby Dodd in terms of being able to play games in there, or are you able to time that around as you redo that building?
Yeah, it won't. When we redo the edge, it won't have any effect on us, our ability to play games in there. So we're okay there. I'd also like to add that this partnership with AMB also really allows us to, and coming to Mercedes-Benz, also allows us to reach out to their fan base and work together in accessing Atlanta football fans. They may not necessarily right now be Georgia Tech fans, and we really noticed when we did host the United that there were a lot of United fans that had never been on our campus. And so this is another opportunity, because obviously it's being in that we'll jointly be working at filling Mercedes-Benz for these games, that it provides us another opportunity to introduce the Georgia Tech product to Atlanta football fans that may never have been to one of our games before.